Close your eyes for a moment and picture the floor falling away beneath you, the air turning thin as you grasp the horrifying truth that the person you trusted most has just ripped your world apart in a single, breath-stealing instant. It feels like watching a movie you never signed up for, where the climax is your own heart shattering on the screen. The weight of betrayal presses down, making every breath a reminder that safety was an illusion. In this space, we will walk through the raw emotions, the disbelief, and the painful clarity that follows when love is replaced by deceit. Stay with me as we uncover how a moment of infidelity can rewrite an entire life story. I stood frozen in the shadows, heart hammering against my ribs as I watched my girlfriend and my closest friend locked in a kiss that felt like a final goodbye to everything we had built. Their bodies pressed together, lips moving in a rhythm that spoke of intimacy I had only ever shared with her. It was not a fleeting slip, it was a deliberate, lingering act that erased years of trust in seconds. The worst part came when she slid back into our home, her cheeks flushed, and attempted to kiss me as if nothing had happened. Her lips brushed mine, a cruel reminder of the betrayal she had just committed, and I felt a wave of nausea and anger surge through me, realizing that the person I loved had become a stranger capable of such callousness. For 6 years we wove a tapestry of shared dreams, inside jokes, and quiet mornings that made me believe our bond was unbreakable. He was more than a friend, he was the confidant I turned to when the world felt heavy, the person I thought I knew inside out. Her loyalty felt like a promise etched in stone, and we talked about futures, homes, and the little things that made life feel meaningful. Yet beneath the surface, currents were shifting, and the foundation I trusted was slowly being eroded by secrets I could not see. The realization that the people I held closest were orchestrating my downfall left me questioning every memory, every laugh, and every whispered "I love you" that now felt like a carefully staged performance. In hindsight, the warning signs were subtle whispers I chose to ignore, the way her eyes flickered to her phone when his name appeared, the slight change in her tone that grew colder whenever we spoke of plans together, the unexplained late nights that she brushed off as work. I told myself I was being paranoid, that love meant giving the benefit of the doubt, and I silenced the gut feeling that something was off because confronting the truth felt too terrifying. Each small inconsistency was a piece of a puzzle I refused to assemble, preferring the comfort of denial over the pain of acknowledgement. Now those ignored signals scream loudly, reminding me that intuition is often the first casualty when we choose to protect a fantasy over facing reality. The moment I saw them together, my world collapsed into a motel room where the walls seemed to close in, amplifying the deafening silence of my own thoughts. My phone buzzed incessantly, hundreds of texts and calls from her, each message a desperate plea for forgiveness, a frantic attempt to rewrite the narrative I could no longer believe. I stared at the screen, feeling the weight of each word as a reminder of the lie she had lived. I realized there was nothing left to say. Trust, once shattered, cannot be glued back with apologies. I chose the stark solitude of a stranger's room over the toxic familiarity of her presence, understanding that some wounds run too deep for healing, and that sometimes the bravest act is to walk away and reclaim the self that betrayal tried to erase. Betrayal does not always wear the face of a lover, sometimes it hides behind the smiles of those who are supposed to be our safest harbor. The next tale takes us into a family gathering where love is conditional, and a child's worth is measured against an impossible standard of perfection. Prepare to feel the sting of exclusion and the fierce protectiveness that rises when a parent refuses to let their child be sidelined for the sake of appearances. The air was thick with floral perfume and joyful chatter as I stepped into my sister's wedding, expecting to celebrate a union that symbolized love and family. Instead, I felt an icy barrier rise around me when I realized my son, the bright light of my life, was nowhere to be seen among the guests. My heart pounded as I searched the crowd, only to find him relegated to a quiet corner, his presence deliberately omitted from the festivities. When I finally confronted my sister, her words cut deeper than any blade. She had excluded him not because he was disruptive, but because his amputated leg would draw attention away from her perfect day. The realization that her love was contingent on how well we fit into her curated image left me reeling, questioning the very foundation of the familial bond one had always trusted. My sister and I had shared countless secrets, late-night conversations, and a bond that felt unbreakable, especially as I navigated the challenges of single parenthood. I had leaned on her for support, believing that family meant standing together through every storm, celebrating each other's victories, and lifting each other up in moments of doubt. My son, brave and full of laughter, had always been the center of my world, and I had worked tirelessly to instill in him the knowledge that he was enough, exactly as he was. Walking into that wedding, I carried the belief that our family was a sanctuary where his worth was never questioned, only to discover that the sanctuary's doors were locked to him because of a superficial vision of perfection that sacrificed his dignity for aesthetics. The sight of other children running freely, their laughter ringing like bells, while my son sat on the sidelines, his prosthetic leg glinting under the sun, struck me like a physical blow. The cruelty of the moment was not just in the exclusion but in the stark contrast between the carefree joy of others and the silent isolation imposed upon my child. I understood then that the perfection my sister chased was a fragile facade built on the exclusion of the very person who should have been celebrated most. Her love, I realized, was conditional, dependent on how well we could conform to an unattainable ideal, and it shattered the illusion that family ties were unconditional and steadfast. I could not stay to watch a ceremony that celebrated my son's erasure. I turned and walked away, choosing his dignity over a hollow spectacle. Messages flooded in, accusing me of ruining her special day, labeling me the asshole who walked out, but they failed to see the truth. I was protecting my child from a world that already treats him as an inconvenience. I spent the rest of the afternoon with him, creating our own joy, laughing, playing, and reminding him that his value is intrinsic, not dictated by anyone's expectations. In that moment, I reclaimed the narrative, affirming that love must be inclusive, and that sometimes the most profound act of loyalty is to walk away from toxicity to safeguard the ones we cherish most. Sometimes betrayal erupts not from whispered secrets but from a sudden, violent act that shatters the life you have painstakingly constructed. The following story explores how a seemingly harmless prank can unleash irreversible consequences, exposing the depths of entitlement and the fight for justice when family bonds are tested by cruelty disguised as fun. It began as a burst of laughter at our grandmother's birthday party, the clink of glasses and the hum of conversation filling the room, when my cousin decided it would be hilarious to throw me into the pool. I shouted for him to stop, my voice firm, my expression serious, but the golden child of the family ignored my pleas, swept up in his own need for applause. The splash was not merely water. It was the violent impact that shattered my expensive hearing aids, the devices that connected me to the world's sounds. In that reckless moment, he did more than ruin my hair or my clothes. He stripped away my ability to hear conversations, music, and the subtle nuances of everyday life, leaving me grappling with a sudden, profound silence that felt like a loss of self. My cousin had always been the charismatic center of attention, the person whose antics were excused with a shrug and a laugh, while I occupied the quieter role, the one who preferred stability over spectacle. We shared family gatherings, holiday meals, and a history that should have fostered mutual respect, yet an undercurrent of entitlement always lingered beneath his charm. I had expected basic courtesy, even if we were not inseparable friends, and I never imagined that someone I grew up with would treat my well-being as a punchline for his entertainment. The incident revealed a stark disparity. His desire for amusement outweighed any consideration for the lasting damage his actions could inflict on another person's life.